All right. Hmm.
Few people are in the waiting room.
Good,
Um, oh, my friend Rajiv. Looks like he made it.
good, 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 good.
And you have some folks also hopefully attending.
I think so. I'm prompting them now.
Hey guys,
Yeah. Hey, Rajiv, how are you?
good. Good to see you, Richard and Chris.
Good
A
to see
pleasure.
you. Good to almost see you. Good to hear you anyway. There he is.
Um,
Thanks for joining us.
Sure.
make sure this link goes out.
Yeah, because it just showed that you had another meeting going on.
No worries. A little Zoom blip.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just going to turn the audio and video down. I'm about to take a quick bite. I didn't have dinner or lunch. I should say lunch. I'm just
Oh,
chowing down.
definitely
No
chow
worries.
down.
Okay.
Hope you brought enough for everybody.
Yeah, I'm sharing it. Can you taste it, Chris?
uh,
Delicious.
It's only yogurt, so it's nothing major.
All right. Boom, 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 boom. Hold on before I pull it. Hold on. I have two screens now. Let me do this. That's fine. Just share that screen for right now. Let me make sure these links go out. At least prompt a couple of guests. Da, 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 da.
Hey, Richard, I went through the stuff that you sent out to Anne and all of us yesterday. Interesting and well
hmm
put together. So I'm hoping you can get some traction with that.
Oh, you mean the blog post? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I tell you, Rajiv, I'm really troubled by universities that are so resistant to AI because my daughter goes to one of them and she's a creative. And I mean the reality is some some 19-year-old kid with supercomputer power in his basement in Kazakhstan is going to be able to create movies and create creative content with no talent, just really the ability to create derivative content from true artists and then using, whatever Sarah, Nano Banana, whatever the flavor of the month is that's doing video content,
Mm-hmm.
Jen, whatever, and actually create some pretty impressive stuff without having an inch of talent. Just being able to take other people's work or even use AI to create stuff from prompting.
Yep. Well, the
And
thing is, like you said, the universities, you know, have to kind come to a certain amount of reality is AI is one of the major tools of the present and future. It's not
yeah,
future, it's already here.
right. I mean, I look at it this way, Blockbuster versus Netflix.
Yep.
Um, the American automobile industry versus the Japanese. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there are all kinds of instances in history where legacy products resistant to change, and I would even say the cable companies, right? How long did the cable companies fight against streaming services?
Mhm.
All they did was raise their prices and try to, use their monopoly to strong arm customers into keeping using their incredibly expensive platforms,
Yep.
which had 1,000 channels. But who can watch 1,000 channels, and why on earth would I pay for anything more than I want to watch? I mean,
Yep.
streaming services basically pared down what people wanted. But
Mm-hmm.
these mega corporations and monopolies, they don't give people what they want. They give people what is the most profitable.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I have no affinity whatsoever for the Time Warner cables or the Clear Channel, all these monopolies out there that
You know,
have existed for decades and really not served their audience.
no, and what happened a couple of months ago with Spectrum, we have Spectrum down here.
I call them rectum cable.
So basically right now, all of the different in my cable service charge, I can get all of these streaming services now for free, supposedly. It's not free, but it's in there. So
Mhm.
I can cancel the, HBO Max or Netflix or whatever, and now they have it all as part of their system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Netflix and Max and the others don't really care because they're
Get
still
paid.
getting it anyway. But, you know, and you've seen a lot of consolidation in the
Mhm.
streaming services space, right?
Yep.
There's basically two players now. You've got Hulu, Disney, there's like four or five, ESPN, there's, four or five, all part of one consolidated offering.
Hmm.
And then I think Paramount and Amazon have a similar kind
Yeah,
of
and
scenario.
then you got Peacock
And
also.
you got Peacock. Netflix is really the only one that continues to fly solo because, they don't have a reason to partner with anybody really because they have the most subscribers. Um,
They're,
yeah,
they're
it's
going the opposite direction. They're purchasing Time Warner now.
Warner, yeah, they're looking to
right.
buy.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is a good thing. We have to keep it away from these Trump-infused billionaires who want to buy up all these media companies so that he controls the narrative and the media, which he did with Larry Ellison and CBS, and with Jeff Bezos and the Washington Post, and these they're controlling the narrative. They're
Yep.
controlling the media. The media is just like our Constitution is owned by the people. That's what the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, was empowered to enforce. Unfortunately, they've become lackeys for one political party in particular, and all they do is, like anything else these days,
They're just rubber
enable
stamping it. Yeah, they just rubber stamp stuff.
and rubber stamping it and enable a political party to do whatever they want. If the FCC was doing its job, Fox News would not even be on the air because there's nothing newsworthy about what they do. What they do is harmful. They spew propaganda and false news and hateful commentary. It's un-American. And yet, the FCC has been politicized so badly that they have no authority, and all they are now is a lapdog for whatever political party is and in particular the Republicans.
Alas, one crusade at a time, my friend.
One crusade at a time. And we have some work to do on the academic front. And we have three people in the waiting room, so let's get them in.
Please.
Well, three, actually two of them were was a phantom note taker. But we have a Paula.
Paula, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. So
All right.
we're running a little bit late, but about to get started, I guess.
Here. All right. Without further ado, thank you for coming to our roundtable. This roundtable is brought to you by Cognify Insight Network, part of Cognify Solutions. Cognify Solutions is a brand of Nexus systems that focuses on AI governance. What is that? That is ensuring that these amazing, fantastic, weighty, somewhat fraught, somewhat divisive, but still critical piece of technology comes under good stewardship, good guidance of the people who design, develop, deploy, and use these systems every day. Cognify Insight Network is a initiative of Cognify Solutions to bring real conversations, real topics, real insights, real discussions around these solutions and these recommendations. So this is ultimately why we want to build a community around this, because we firmly believe that as we have these conversations, as these important decisions are made, these recommendations are put out there, that they don't just come out of one echo chamber. They involve everybody from professionals to stakeholders to end users. Everybody has a stake in this. We want to build a community that has a voice in this conversation. As such, because we want to be intentional about the community part of this, we want to go around the room and actually give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves. I think we have a little bit of a light group, so we can take maybe 30 seconds. Just give us your name, your company, your location, and perhaps a fun fact. So I'll go first. My name is Chris Feemster. My company is Cognify Solutions. My current location is hailing from the not quite as sunny, still a bit chilly, but not too bad, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I suppose a fun fact about me is that I enjoy road trips. Apparently, I didn't realize how much I enjoy road trips because I recently put down 3,200 miles in the last 2 weeks. All right. Next up, Richard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Richard Schreiber. Also a partner in Cognify Solutions. I have my own AI company called Law Firm AI Expert, where I provide solutions for women-led law firms to really help improve their business, get some valuable time back, and help them to automate admin and otherwise processes that keep them from practicing law, effectively managing their business, and spending time with their families. So my mission is to give them back that time. I'm also an autism advocate. I have a foundation based in New York. I've written a best-selling book around it. And that's my real passion, is to be a voice for those who can't necessarily always speak for themselves. And happy to be here. A fun fact. Since we're keeping on the travel, I enjoy traveling a lot. And one of my favorite places in the world to go to is Barcelona. And my wife and I went there several times about 20 years ago. And we climbed all the way to the top of one of the towers then of the Sagrada Familia, the famous Antonin Gaudi church, which will become the largest church in the world once its construction is finished, which is targeted for next year. 900 feet up in the air. My wife and I climbed up, I don't know how many stairs, and we walked on a catwalk, which was kind of a construction site, praying that the wind didn't blow us off it. So it was pretty scary, but exhilarating nonetheless. And yeah, kind of fun.
Well, that's fantastic. Hopefully, maybe this talk might be at least a quarter as exhilarating as the experience. All right. Next up, Rajiv.
Hi, my name is Rajiv Kapoor, as Chris just introduced me. I am a co-founder of an organization called Minds Untapped, and we are in the area of special needs and with area of focuses in the autism and educational areas. And fun fact is that I came to the United States 52 years ago on a tennis scholarship.
Fantastic. Hopefully, we've made that worth your while for you to stay that long.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm very blessed.
Yeah, yeah.
indeed. And so are we. Rajiv is a wonderful friend, and we're hoping to together change a lot of the paradigm in K to 12 schooling for kids on the spectrum.
Fantastic. All right. Next up, Paula. All right, you are muted, Paula. That's okay. Oh, that's okay if you can't unmute. We'll go on down. I'll come back to you.
I got it.
Oh, there you
Hi.
go, Paula.
Hi, how are you?
Hey,
So my name is Paula. Thank you for inviting me. I collaborate with different organizations. My company is Educademy and is a consulting and research firm, basically enhancing, certain procedures and acquiring and developing skills to enhance performance in the classroom and anything that is needed to close that gap when it's needed. So it's basically just supporting a lot of professionals, teachers, training parents, and also going into the field of, also corporations and working with their staff to improve communication and interactions among them. So that is one of the things that I do. One of the fun facts is when I was in Chicago under a blizzard and I decided to go to Australia, to Sydney, and get on a flight all the way to California, and from California flying out to Sydney and seeing a 90, 100 degrees weather within 24 hours. So that was like the ups, the it's just a flip-flop type of deal. And
that's
that's
a
kind of an experience that I enjoyed, and I tend to look at those drastic situations and try to make the best of it. So yeah, so thank you for having me.
Thank you
thank you.
for coming, Paula.
Yeah.
I think you may have me licked in miles. Hope you got some frequent flyer miles, all
Oh
of that.
yes, I still do, and I sometimes I fly, I don't, but that was a great trip going from Chicago.
Mm.
Best time to travel is February from Chicago to LA, LA,
Mm.
Sydney, FYI.
I might do that.
Good to know.
Great. Thank you, Paula. All right. Next up, I see Jay Love's phone. Thank you for joining us. We're doing 15 or 30-second introductions. Name, company, location, fun fact.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Wait. Oh, no. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No worries.
My name is Jerlene Harrison. I am a teacher with Community Council Learning Academy in Philadelphia, and we service students with emotional support issues, and we do our best to make it a socio-emotional learning experience. Um, with that being said, we still have to drive instruction. Um, direct and indirect instruction and make sure that the students are on task. But sometimes we have to stop instruction in order to make sure that whatever issue the student might be having, we have to address it and make sure that they're able to calm down and get back to where they need to be, especially when it concerns the education. However, it is difficult to assign homework because they don't do it. And even though the parents might know that they have it, they don't enforce it. And it's it's basically teaching kids how to self-manage and redirect their anger somewhere else and how to get back on track. And we try not to have the children 302 or, excuse me, go into a different program because we
Mhm.
just want to help them to figure it out. And sometimes it's difficult, but we want to help them figure it out on their own so that they don't, the consequences aren't as severe.
Yeah. Well, it's
Wonderful.
fantastic to have your perspective in this
Yeah.
space. Do you want to drop
Wonderful.
on?
What a blessing.
Thank
Indeed.
you. So I recently found out that we do every 2 weeks we do testing on an educational site, and what it does is it's it tests to see what they've learned and retained in regards to reading and math. And I just found out yesterday that one or maybe a few of our students have been using Google to help them get better scores on their testing.
The Google
I
Gemini.
see. Gemini
Yeah.
3. Yeah.
More than likely, yes.
Mm.
So, and we need to figure out a way to keep that from happening because the scores that we use are to um, help with their IEPs, individualized education
Ah,
programs. And we need to make sure that they're as true as possible because otherwise, if they're not, it's it's it is not beneficial for the student nor for us, especially when it comes to teaching and doing our programming for the students. Because when it comes to, I teach language arts in history. And if it shows that my student is testing on 12th grade, on a 12th grade level, even though he's in ninth or 10th grade, then I need to step it up. But if he can't keep up when I step it up, what's the point?
Indeed. All
interesting.
right. Let me speed through because I think you're gonna get a lot of good meat out of this webinar. Um Richard's
And
gonna
you,
be our presenter for today.
Mhm.
I kind of want to just jump right in. We kind of went, why are we here? Honestly, Jerlene, you kind of touched on that bit of that need, what you're seeing in the classroom, having discussions around all of this, and a couple
Mhm.
of things that you, Paul, and you, Rajiv, touched on. That's why we're here. All right,
Okay.
so without further ado, let me jump to our roundtable discussion, at least the premise. So, um, Richard, take it away. Set us up.
okay. So just by total admission, I am an AI strategist. I also raised a daughter and watched her go through school. Yes, she had special needs, and it's funny you talk about IEPs. That's a story for a different time. That
Mhm.
Rajiv and I are looking at how AI can be used to really help teachers uh, and caregivers to foster better streamlined workflow in that space. Um, though I am an AI expert, um, I think one of the things today, and we had this discussion briefly earlier, is that today with AI, knowledge is no longer power.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody has access to knowledge through a large
Right.
language model. What's more important is that students today learn how to ask the right questions, what is often referred to as the Socratic model. And, there's a piece of scripture that kind of summarizes this really well, and that is, teach someone to fish, don't just hand them the fish. And the difference in that is, yeah, any kid can go to ChatGPT and put in a simple prompt, give me a
Mm-hmm.
1,000-word essay on the French and Indian War, and get
Mm-hmm.
mediocre results. But what they should be doing is asking themselves, why did this war take place? What triggered it? Why is it important historically? What were the key outcomes? If the student is really thinking about it from that standpoint, then AI becomes a good tool to have a conversation about it,
Mm-hmm.
not just something that cheats writing an essay. So anyway, I want to keep my presentation brief because this is not intended for me to do a dialogue. Chris, can you share the presentation, or do you want me to do that?
Let me make sure I'm sharing the right window.
All right. I have it open on my desktop if that facilitates, so we can just jump in.
Wait, there it
Yeah,
goes.
but
All right.
yeah,
Are we seeing the academic crossroads, the fork in the road?
that is it. Next
All right.
slide, please. So, you know, this conversation is more about higher education.
Mm-hmm.
Although we've spent an equal amount of time talking about K through 12, and with my dear friend Rajiv, who's on tonight's, that actually tends to be more of the space that we're involved in. But because there's so much being written about what's happening on a collegiate level, we wanted to spend some time and have a conversation about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about plagiarism, and really that's one of the bigger challenges that all education, but in particular higher education, is facing. We're at a crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
AI has arrived on college campuses,
Mm-hmm.
and how we deal with that in the next generation of learning is really super critical, because AI isn't going away,
Right.
and we can't be the proverbial ostrich, stick our head in the sand and pretend it'll go away, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And in higher education, we have, as you can imagine, a lot of paradigms that are old. And let's face it, college institutions are for-profit institutions. They can be formulaic, not all, but what we're seeing in this slide is the old paradigm, detection and enforcement, fear-based compliance against use of AI, and against plagiarism. Technology is seen as a threat, and really just a preservation of the status quo. The new possibility is using AI is for greater fluency in partnership, partnering with a tool that can actually help students learn faster, quicker, better, and deeper if used the correct way. And I want to underscore that what both Nexus and Cognify are all about is really faith-based, ethical, integrous, and compassionate use of AI,
Here, here.
without question. AI gives you the opportunity to explore your curiosity. You ask it a question, yeah, it'll respond, but it'll also ask you 3 questions. Do you want to answer for this? Do you want to take the conversation in that direction? So AI can be very useful at broadening the questions that students can ask to really develop a much broader understanding of the topic that they're involved in. Technology is really an amplifier, not a replacement. And, the reality is AI is not going anywhere. And we're seeing more and more this kind of split between people that avoid it and people that embrace it. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people out there, people like Elon Musk and other people like the owner of Anthropic, who are saying horrible things like unemployment is going to reach 20 to 25% within the next 1 to 3 years. And largely, it's going to be entry-level jobs for kids coming out of college. And those kids coming out of college who are well versed in AI will have a definite advantage over kids that don't. And, don't believe me, don't take my word for it. There's plenty of information out there about this, and we'll talk a little more about that. Next slide, sir. So, yeah, I mean, this is pretty much more of the same conversation around when the faculty becomes, more in tune with trying to ferret out plagiarism than being mentors and really fostering better use and effective and ethical use of AI by students. They're really breaking what is in effect an educational covenant. Education is something that needs to evolve with technology. And what we're witnessing today is an arms race between AI and its ability to convey knowledge, and professors, really looking closely at what students are outputting, being more concerned about plagiarism than how do we embrace AI in the classroom, and again, get students to think about using it in a Socratic method, in a way that changes the mindset away from memorization to engagement with an intellectual that can enhance their curiosity and their intelligence. There's definitely a culture of distrust. Which is not to say that there's not a valid reason for distrusting AI. We know it hallucinates. We know that's had consequences all over the place, in legal and finance, in in organizations sharing information on large language models that end up being broadcast over the general internet and so forth. But again, being defensive about it, sticking our head in the sand, pretending that AI is going to go away, does more harm than confronting it, than looking at how do I use this within a faithful, ethical construct in education or whatever it may be. That's where we believe the focus should really be. Next slide, please. And again, the job market, I don't want to get too far into this. The job market, as I said earlier, is going to be very challenging for those who do not embrace AI, regardless of what their degree is. Because, people in corporate America, they're looking at cutting heads left and right, because all it does is fall to the bottom line and appease their shareholders. And they're not going to cut the people at the top. No, they're going to cut the people at the bottom, the analysts, the entry-level positions, the paralegals, the, people that are coming in entry-level positions. But if you're an entry-level position, if you are applying for an entry-level position and you know AI and are well-versed and schooled in it, then they know you're a valuable resource. So that's really, I think, symptomatic of what we really need to be thinking about going forward. And banning AI in college, which is pretty rampant, is only going to make students less prepared for the job market and really put them at a disadvantage for kids who don't even have college degrees, but who are AI versed, who are competing against them for the same jobs in many cases. Next slide, please. So, yeah, AI, I look at it, the reason we say it's a telescope and not a creator is, when Galileo invented the telescope, it didn't do away with our curiosity about the heavens. It didn't diminish our capability to explore, outer space. It just gave us a better tool to do it better. AI is pretty much the same way. AI should never replace human capability. It should augment it. It should supplement it. But the AI does have a capability that can process huge quantities of data under the right auspices and direction of a human to get better, faster results. So let's wrap it up. I don't want to talk too much further. Let's, I guess, the last slide. So are we building walls or bridges? Are we going to continue to put AI in a container and pretend it's not there, or not really understand within the context of what Cognify does? Is our belief is that you can use AI with the proper guardrails and the proper amounts of governance to ensure that A, it's not hallucinating, B, you're not exposing information you shouldn't be exposing to the internet, and that it's being used in positive ways. So that's really the number one question right now, and particularly in higher education and in general. What are we going to do? Because we're living in a world where, again, the people that embrace AI and use AI throughout their enterprise, regardless of what they do, are going to have a distinct advantage over those who don't. And I live in a very diverse family. I believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's in my core, in my fiber. And I don't want to see people get hurt because they've been told wrongly to avoid using AI in whatever they do in college, K-12, because people are going to get hurt if they don't really understand that AI is here to stay. It's not a fad. It is here to stay. It's accelerating at an incredible rate. And, we're hearing stories. I'm not much into fear mongering, and I refuse to do it. There's too much of that already in the media and in the government. But, AI is something we all need to confront and take into account, particularly in the college level. So thank you for listening, and let's move on into the panel.
All right. That
First
was
of all, why don't we hear from our two academics? I'm sure they have differing
please.
opinions on what I just said, and you certainly want to hear that. I'm certainly not in academia. I am in AI, but I did have a daughter, and I was intensely involved in her education and continue to be. So let's open the floor.
Indeed. Please feel free to unmute and jump right in.
Yeah. Paula, what are your thoughts?
One question I might put out there to help kind of stimulate discussion is even just working right there from the back on in. One of the last notes from that slide were from policing the partnership. That's an interesting dynamic that's always kind of been in the classroom. And I guess you could consider different teaching styles, different needs of the students, the different level of class, the type of curriculum that might be needed. Where the tension between that and that mentorship is, like in the experience that you guys see out there. Again, please just jump in here. Is this the same old concern, the same old tension rehashed, or are we looking at something really new and different here in the experience that you guys have? Again, please unmute and jump in. I'm sure you don't want to just hear me or Richard pontificate all evening.
Ajit, anyone?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
all right. So one of the things that I was wondering is that, I'm on social media. I might not see the same things my students do. Keep in mind, I teach 9th through 12th graders. So one of the things that this might go somewhere different, is that there are different videos with songs and statements or whatever using AI.
Mhm.
Um, some of it is funny, some of it is horrific. I'm not going to mention one person who has his own media company, and he's just. I'm sorry.
Sure, sure,
Uh,
sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to move on from that. But anyway, what I was thinking was that, especially listening to Richard, was that AI is actually a good thing. However, I think that too many people put too much into it as opposed to learning. And I get it. Some people just don't have the capacity for long-term memory. And but I still think, I mean, just like one of the things that when I was in school, we had to memorize our timetables. And now it's not there, and we're supposed to um uh really? Thanks.
Mhm.
One, and then Phil hasn't gotten his, but there was a couple there. I didn't know what he wanted to do with. All right, cool. Thanks. So the other thing is, like, when we give the kids tests, we're not supposed to let them rely on their memory because kids get frustrated and whatnot. So we have to give them calculators. But the thing that I see with AI is that the kids aren't committing anything to memory. It's
Mhm.
short-term memory.
Mhm.
You understand what I mean?
Hmm.
So they're not remembering anything. They just learn enough or turn in enough just to say, I did it. But what did you actually learn? Because that's one of the things that teachers are graded on. What did the kids
Right.
actually learn? Are they learning anything from your class?
Mhm.
So I mean, in one instance, AI is great because it's helping them to figure things out, but they're not learning anything. And
Yeah.
then for me, I was told that I could use Copilot or Snapchat, no, uh, that other Chat GBT,
ChatGPT. Yeah.
Mhm.
right, to do my lesson plans. And truthfully, that sounds great, but it's more confusing to me only because I'm used to, this is what I got to do, this is what I got to do, this is what I got to do. And if I use Copilot or ChatGPT, when you ask me later on about my lesson plans, I'm not going to remember.
Mhm.
Even though they say, well, yeah, you can do your lesson plans for 6 weeks. I'd rather just do them on the computer. So I think in the long run, it's useful in some ways and it's helpful in some ways, but I don't think it really makes the person any smarter. I think it just makes them craftier as to how they can get the work done.
That's a very interesting question, and I might ask further. Um, it seems like we've had a similar kind of discourse. I'm sure whatever was before calculators, to being able to open a book during a test, then having calculators, then having just computers, then having search engines, and now AI. I wonder if this is more of the same or this is fundamentally different. And even if it is fundamentally different, are there any lessons learned from those other inflection points that still apply, or is even the playbook, even the answer key thrown out the window too?
Yeah. I think what I hear, and again, these are very valid points, especially the part about AI not making a child smarter. And I would agree with that if they're not using AI, the way it optimally should be used. And again, that is to have a conversation around the subject matter to expand the horizons of what you're understanding. If you're using AI to just shortcut or to cheat, or because you just want to get through it and get done, is that AI's fault, or is that a basic core attribute of the student?
Mhm.
And I think the bigger worry that I have in listening to this conversation is, AI can basically create a cadre or a small subset of incredibly bright and accomplished students. But what about everybody else? And the answer to that is AI can be used to equalize the pace and the speed and the interest that every kid has in the same classroom if you tailor and target not just the content of the lesson plans, but the way it's taught, the speed, the ability to revisit where that student might have challenges in a particular fundamental in an area like math or science, and double down on where they need a little bit more time and attention to be able to keep up. I think, if students really felt that they could learn something and accomplish something in school, I think you'd see a drastic difference in their attitude, their attention span, and their commitment to education. I think the laziness may come from, you know, perhaps their own resistance on not wanting to put forth the effort, or perhaps frustration and not being able to learn things as well. But AI can be that great equalizer, and this extends into even into students who have special needs. You know, so ultimately, I think AI can get us to a place where we have a completely homogenized classroom. Do away with these special classes, which I hate. It's just another container to put kids in, um, as well as gifted and talented classes, right? Which is on the other end of the spectrum. My daughter was in a gifted and talented class, and a lot of the parents in her school hated it because they thought that it was creating an elitist double standard of academia. Instead of what it was kids who were a little bit further along could, as a collective, work in a different classroom and accelerate their learning. There's nothing wrong with that. Why would you hold back a superior student because they're a faster learner and put them in a general ed situation with everybody else? So, AI can be that great equalizer in the classroom to help lift up those kids who might need a little more time, or might be slower in learning, or have difficulty learning. We all were in that boat, right? None of us were A students in every subject. At least I wasn't. I sucked in Spanish and other parts of. I never even took calculus because I knew I'd fail it. But maybe if I had AI as my tutor, I could have passed it.
It's interesting. I think I want to revisit that curriculum question. Kind of illuminating, maybe unpacking a little bit what you just said, Richard, and addressing something you brought up, Jerlene, that in that curriculum, especially when you're looking at, are students using AI to solve to meet the curriculum, to complete assignments from the curriculum, and teachers possibly using it to generate curriculum. What's the real meaningful value there? Because it sounds like we're at risk of a feedback loop. And let me pose it like this. What would be valuable there? Because folks are going to use aids to help them complete a job. Teachers are going to use things to help them make more efficient. Students are going to use things that just make learning easier. So that learning piece, what might that be tangibly look like? What does it mean that the student learned something? Is that recalling something? Is that figuring out a process? Is that understanding a system? You know, what's the essence of that learning activity? And this is certainly an open-ended question. I'm interested to hear there's a different take on that.
I think for me, it can be helpful. And, artificial intelligence it can be a great thing, but So I'm going to compare it to the. Have any of you ever seen the movie Wall-E?
Yes, love
Okay.
that movie.
Right.
Disney.
Right. So, and in part of the movie, everybody's just so dependent on artificial intelligence that everyone just gets overweight and they stop doing things. And when the system fails, then people have to think for themselves.
Mhm.
So, what happens when people have to think for themselves? Just like, you go to the markets now. I used to be a cashier when I was in high school. And there was a time or two, we didn't have computerized stuff. We just had the regular ding, 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 cash register. And sometimes the cash register would just fall apart and you had to figure out what the customer's change was. It would give you the whole thingy, but it just wouldn't compute how much the customer gave you. And that was before credit cards and debit cards and EBT cards. So you had to rely on your smarts in order to figure it out. I also used to be a turnpike toll collector. And sometimes the machine would break down. You had to figure it out on your own. And my concern is that when you use AI, so many people are not going to be able to figure it out on their own. And as an educator, you you instill in the students that you have to figure it out. What happens when everything breaks down? What are you going to do? Because you're not going to always have technology. Your car is not going to always work. Your phone is not going to always be online. There might be a time or two when you forgot to pay the bill and you can't calculate the tip. You
Mhm.
can't calculate anything. You have to use your brain. And I think that AI just makes it too easy for people. And I mean, maybe, well, I'm almost 60. So maybe that's where I'm coming from because maybe I'm just too old to understand and see things. But I'm not saying
No,
that AI is not a good thing. It can be. But I still think that people still need to think for themselves and work
yeah,
things out.
I would agree with that. And I think the one thing that we want to be mindful of is kids still need to know the fundamentals. If you don't know the fundamentals, you don't know how to use AI to assist you in extending what you know foundationally to make to grow and become faster, better, smarter, and more accomplished. It's kind of like as an entrepreneur, you can't you can't delegate what you don't inherently know how to do yourself. And I think that's the comparison that I would think about in the use of AI in a learning environment. It does not substitute kids having to learn the fundamentals. They must learn the fundamentals and then learn how AI can supplement what they know foundationally. Because you're right. If they skip past that and go right into AI, then yeah, we're going to end up with a society of people just outsourcing everything they do to an intelligence. And then you've got science fiction based stuff down the road, telling a singularity, telling us that, these massive AI uh, organizations and or platforms are going to start thinking for themselves. And that's not good if we're not thinking too.
I agree. There's so many different movies and so many different instances that you can refer back to. I Robot. That's one. The other thing is, I thought it was a good movie actually, but it made you think. What
Yeah.
happens when artificial intelligence tries to take over humanity? And then it's just like, well, where are you? where were you in all of this? You know what I mean? And and what that means is, what were you thinking? How were you not trying to do your life or go through your life without artificial intelligence? And I'm not saying that it's completely bad, because it's a great thing. I mean, I've heard about these Tesla cars and I'm like, oh, that's great. But what happens if the Tesla car has a malfunction while it's on the highway getting you from point A to point B?
Yeah, that's true. And even though I remember Elon Musk argued a number of years ago when one of his cars crashed and killed somebody,
Mm,
uh, his response was, well, that car had 1 million hours driving on the highway. You could not have a human being behind the wheel of a car for 1 million hours and not have dozens of accidents. Likely that would be lead to fatalities, let alone a single accident that led to a fatality. So that's what
I
they were trying to
I
throw
dare
back in our
to
face.
disagree, because I've been driving since I was 16. So I've
I've
had maybe one accident. No, I take that back. Two, and neither one of them were my fault.
yeah.
So I'm just saying, there's, you can do the rebuttals, and it's all I'm saying is, I think it can be a good thing, but I think that we still need to make sure that people have the fundamentals, and they still need to know what they need to know.
Yeah, it's almost like you take the initial course you take is fundamentals, no AI whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe the next course is, okay, you now have the fundamentals. Let's introduce AI in a limited capacity so
Yeah.
that you can begin to see how to use that in your preferred curriculum or major. And then as you kind of get further along, then perhaps it becomes more and more advanced at how you use AI. I mean, bottom line is somebody has to figure out what the formula is.
Yeah.
But denial or ignoring it or blaming AI um, because it's a substitute for what students um, gravitate towards instead of good work habits
Mm-hmm.
and good study habits. Is that really AI's fault? Or is that the student doesn't have, the level of dedication that they should in really doing the schoolwork, doing the work? So
That is
Well,
an
Richard, you
May I
made
add
a
As
something?
good
a
point.
teacher, I'm going to say it's the parents' fault, but
yeah.
Rajiv. I heard you speak up
Rajiv,
there.
yeah.
Yeah,
sorry.
no problem. The part that you were just saying, Richard, is the fact is we've got to take them through the fundamentals. And you remember in one of your slides, you were talking about the curiosity,
Yeah.
the ability to expand. And I think using the Socratic method, it does that, right? But not many, if you look at a lot of even from the high school K through 12, no one's really using Socratic other than in some schools who are getting much better results in some sort of private schools or charter schools, or a teacher who's decided to do things a little bit different. And what that does is it creates the curiosity and it allows these kids to learn how to question, right? Meaning, when I use the word question, is how would I do this? Why should it do? What happened? So we have to create that level of inquisitiveness. And you hit that point well, Richard. What we do is we take them through and you make that class more interesting. And in that part of interesting is when you start adding the AI and said, yes, did you try, give them first part that they would normally use,
Yeah.
right? To try to go with like the old thing of library or Google or wherever you went and got your initial data and you read about it. And then you go, how far did you get?
Yeah.
Right? And so now they're limited in some of the information they got. Now you open up this channel and say, start here and now use this AI to be able to multiply your learning. Okay. So I think we have to create that level of showing them where there's interest in them growing rather than them cheating. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's the whole difference is you can cheat and you're going to be dumb and out of work. Okay, you're not going to grow anything, or you can use this, learn, and get a leg up. I think it also comes from mentoring at different levels. And so when you were talking about a lot of these professors and things like that, when you look at a lot of the major colleges, unless you're paying big dollars, a lot of those classes, because they're research colleges, the head guy who has all the knowledge, he's involved in research. They've got some TAs teaching the classes, especially at the undergrad level. So again, the foundation is not being laid properly. So I think, like you said, our whole educational system from through 12, as well as at collegiate level, really needs some introspection to say, what are we producing? And even when you're looking at some of the mental issues and things like that, you go, why are we having so much of that happen? And that comes back is if you don't have if you lack of confidence, lack of purpose, lack of all of these different things, they only make you depressed because you don't have any path going forward. I think we need to look at our education system and say, because the word edu really means is to bring from within, improve what you already have. God has given us these gifts, and what we need to do is help our kids discover it, then they own it.
I think that's a beautiful mic drop moment right there.
I
But Paul,
wanted to
I
add
see
something.
you know,
Sorry.
Right, Paula?
Go ahead, Paula.
Yeah, so I'm hearing out on the outside, right? Seeing a lot of teachers and how they are reacting in regards to how their students are using the AI component. So majority of the universities are now opting out of AI when it comes to evaluation, and they're asking verbal assessment and also handwritten assessment to actually identify the knowledge of the student, if they're actually performing or not accurately in their skills, right? So those are things that, sorry, I didn't have the camera. So those are things that are actually occurring now, right? When we go into AI, elementary school, some kids, they want to finish their work fast, right? They know that they have to do an assessment, they have to do their homework, and they just want to get it over and done with. That's just kind of their mentality, right? Like everyone else. So they see it as, oh, I have my own assistant that can do my homework for me, and that's it. It's over, done, soon, so they can continue gaming. It's just the reality of what is happening, right? So the idea is that they want to go into their own little world, into trying to figure out how to be the best in gaming, and trying to turn in a report, and trying to be able to get a good grade, right? They still have that mentality of how to do it. The scenario now for them is, how can I do it faster? Because I don't want to deal with it, and I want to do more things, right? I want to do things that I want, that satisfy me, right? So what I tell teachers is, look, you have, AI is technically like going to the library, is an extra resource, right? You ask them, okay, you can ask them questions, and that information is going to come out to you, right? But you don't know if that particular prompt or is going to give you the information that you need. Just like when you go to the library and you take a book and you read a book, and you don't know if that's going to be covering all the information that you need, right? So it's kind of giving examples of that scenario to students to understand that AI is just a resource, right? It could hallucinate depending on the tone that you use. It's make it's basically just creating awareness, is what I'm trying to say. When it comes to AI, is creating awareness. We cannot stop it. It's just getting faster and more. Everything now is AI. You talk to something and say, I have this AI and I have this and this. It's a different name for the same thing, right? So it's like a browser. So the more you want, the more information you want, you have to now pay premiums, right? Like if you want Amazon, you want it faster, you got to pay premium. You don't want commercials, you got to pay premium. So it's kind of the same scenario. It is challenging, I have to say, for teachers. Um, but that is something that we have to try to figure out how to do best, is how that challenge is going to either hinder our performance or advance our performance, is doing that transition of paper into technology, into a laptop, and now going back to old school because it's just getting out of hand, right? But AI is basically giving you a a better view of what could be done, right? For us that we were a little bit, older and had to go into the actual practice of doing things rather than, just getting an assistant, we had to do trial and error, right? We had to see it live. We had to make sure that those things were actually working. One of my suggestions to teachers are just put things in practice. If that is written and if that's the prompt is coming up based on their questions, put it in practice. Let them see it hands on, see if it actually works or not, right? Have them be their own researcher, have them be the one that are making those assumptions and making sure that that is going to be something reliable for them, because unfortunately this generation, the young generation that have not had that theory, that have had not had the practice, are vulnerable, right, to anything that could be given to them, and they're just going to believe it, and they're just going to assume that that's what it is. And the only way that we can break that pattern is by actually having hands-on practice with them. And it's just my feedback based on what I do and how I'm kind of educating people in that sense, and what we have to kind of break. It's a great tool. Look, it helps everyone. I'm sure everyone's like, oh, what's the next one, right? Because things are becoming faster. This is about time equals, how many more things can you do within a small period of time? And this is what kids are. They just want to be able to get into that game, be able to do what they want, how they do it. And the the one scenario is that is challenging as well is the antisocial component. They're
Mhm.
so linked into that technology and actually just being on the laptop that it's hard for them to communicate. So I think that within lessons with teachers, have that social impact within the classroom. Make them talk, have them go back to the basics, right? Like what we used to do. And that's just what I had to say. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting point. I know we have to wrap up here. We're a little bit over, but yeah, there's no question that teachers, have challenges, but on the flip side, I'm almost looking at this as if you're in school, you almost need counselors who can speak to students and say, hey, yeah, you can take the easy way out. But the big picture is the more you cheat and shortcut, you're cheating yourself. You're not setting yourself up for success. Why wouldn't you want to learn how to use this new tool to advance yourself? Yeah, you can get your work done quicker, but you can also be more effective. You can be smarter. You can learn different things, more things. You can find out quicker what you want to be in life. I mean, I think there are just ways that we need to, I think as Rajiv said, take a step back and think through how do we prepare students for the inevitability of AI, but position it in a way that they see it as an advantage to who they are, what they can be, but not as a substitute to get them to go gaming, and because it can reduce their homework time from 30 minutes to 5 minutes or whatever that number is. So there's a kind of a paradigm shift, you know, in our students that has to happen. I think in order for them to embrace AI as a way, in a positive way, to
Yeah.
help them grow faster, bigger, better, and to give them hope, in a very convoluted, very challenging world.
Yeah.
To give them hope that, hey, this can really help me. What the heck? To run my own $1 million company. The sky is the limit. You
Indeed.
know, Instead of goofing off, I should be thinking about that.
Well, the thing is, this also on that part, Richard, you and I, because we're working with special needs and others, part of it is also the gamification, right?
Yeah.
If these kids are wanting to, they get attracted to the game, maybe part of the education using AI is to give them a challenge that makes it almost a game.
Yeah.
You know, make it more interesting. I think that's part of the paradigm shift is we're trying to
Yeah.
use old lesson models and methodologies and trying to figure out how to do it. We need to change the delivery of our education so that it
Yes.
becomes more intriguing. And you know how it is when we're talking about even from a younger age, you know, context. If you don't have context, how do you have perspective? You know, how do you make it grow? So I
Right.
think part of it is all the context. I was doing something with again for early childhood. You go, imagine if we were to try to tell a person taste. How do you show taste on a
On a
tablet?
tablet.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, or smooth to rough. You know how when we talk about kids to be able to have the tactile elements to be able to tell the difference so they can do things. Those are the areas that also are so essential to anybody growing from a young age to older. So there might be similarities depending upon where we're bringing this AI, is how do we create an experience? And you know, as we look at things, we buy experiences, we never buy the product. So the key is, can we change the experience of the education so that now they're intrigued because they see it as, wow, this is fun. So again, they can achieve various different things. We just have to think a little bit deeper. I know we're out of
Mm-hmm.
time, but just wanted to say Paula's input was very good on her part, you know, on what she's seeing out there. We just, I think, have to constantly look at ways of our delivery to engage the kids in a different manner. We're using an old technique and trying to just put a band-aid of AI in it or keep it restricted. We go, well, change, man. Just because you've been doing this for 30 years, you're not going to exist. You're not going to be helping the kids who are going to come in the next 5 years. Maybe you want to adapt.
Yeah.
Great point, Rajiv.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a fabulous panel. So informative. Chris and I thank you so much for your amazing contributions, everyone. Chris,
Thank
take us
you.
out.
Indeed. You know, again, thank you everybody for participating to this. It kind of sounds like one of the things we might just go back to is, hey, maybe we just start every class with this is how you're going to, if you're going to use AI, this is how you use it successfully. If not, well, then come what may, your grade is on your own head. So again, thank you all for joining us this evening for this Cognify Insight Network webinar. Again, this is part of the Cognify Inside Network community. If you have not joined this community, and I appreciate and am thankful for a couple of new faces here, I encourage you to check a couple links in the chat and go ahead and click through there. If you're catching this on the replay, click a couple of links down below. That should bring you to the community. I believe it's community.cognifysolutions.ai, where you can find out more of these types of webinars we're having. If you want to ask follow-up questions on these webinars, because they never seem long enough, please go ahead and join that community, jump in there, ask some questions. We'll be glad to engage with you, be glad to share other resources with you and with one another, and ultimately see how the community can support the community, because that's kind of the point. All right. So again, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your attention, for joining us this evening, for finding it not robbery to give us a little more than an hour over of your time. Thank you so much. We truly hope you'll join us again next time. Again, feel free to drop your information in the chat to follow up with us. We'd love to schedule one-on-one, and please keep an eye on your emails, and we'll make sure we have some additional feedback. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening, and happy holidays.
You too. Thank you.
Happy holidays,
Thank you.
everyone.
Happy holidays.
God bless.
Take care.